contents like ecosystems, what are the various ecosystems that we are going to cover, and interview tips, and 2 proof of concepts, and 1 near real-time project that we are going to give as an proof of concept. So it's a kind of introduction to the content and course content. Okay, so as a part of the regular course, so it's not a, like it's a kind of demo kind of stuff. You can continue with this one. So it will be a demo as well as the continuation of one thing. So today and tomorrow we will be trying to complete the big data introduction and Hadoop content. Okay. Yeah. So friends, if you are not speaking, please go on mute, and I ask Divya to start recording now the session, so that she will be, the recording should have only the subject rather than any other things and all this. Okay. So Divya, now you can start recording. Thank you. The agenda for today is that we try to cover what is data, understanding the data, and we try to see what are the data challenges that the organization was facing all these days, and amorphism of the data we will be trying to complete, and then we try to understand the big data and try to focus what exactly, how much revenue that the big data contents of this environmental big data area has. And finally, we try to see the big data use cases. So, means first half we will be learning, means in this 1 hour session we will be try to complete till this point. Okay. Now, what is data? What is data, my friends? Anyone? What is data?
Information that could be stored digitally.
No, when you say information, it is a processed data is called information. I'm just saying data. What is a data? Information, of course, data, without data there is no information. I'm asking raw data. What is raw data or data symbol? We all know, but we are not trying to, we are not able to put into some kind of definition. Okay. Any semi-structured, unstructured, structured, no. It's your, so someone has given the semi-structured or unstructured. Muhammad has given semi-structured, unstructured, and structured bytes we store. But it's a types of data you are talking. But I am asking about what is the data. Simply, what is data? So a data is anything. It can be anything which has a concrete definition to it, which has a data is an object, we can say directly. It can be an object which has a quality and a quantity associated to it, and it can exist independently. I repeat, any object which has a quality and a quantity associated to it, and which can isolatedly or which can exist independently, is called a data. Now let's say I am taking Muhammad. Muhammad, when I say Muhammad, it seems, yes, we all know, oh, Muhammad is a noun. It has got some description to it, and it has got some quality. We associate, oh, it's a noun. It refers to some person's name. So that's, we are giving some kind of information, means we are giving some quality to it. And next, if I say 23 or 24, it's just a number. So now just 23, yes, we know it's a number. Even further, if you want me to give some kind of explanation about 23, oh, it's a prime number, it's an odd number. It's a whole number. It's a prime, or it's a kind of odd number we say. So 23, when I say, it has got some quality, and it's also some quantities associated. Even Muhammad also, it has got, you can associate a quantity to it. Oh, Muhammad has got 15 letters, something. So independently, if I say Muhammad 23 and 100,000 or USA, each and every loosely coupled content, Muhammad, it exists. Yes, it is a noun. It has got a quality. It has got quantity independently. 23, it has got some quality. We have said, hey, 23 is an odd number. We know it. We are able to describe 23. And 100,000, okay, it's a number. USA, oh, it is a place. So when I am giving you the loosely coupled contents in this fashion, each and every loosely content, like Muhammad independently it exists, 23 independently it exists, 100,000 exists, USA exists, something else also exists. So, but independently they exist, but they are not giving enough information to you. I don't know, oh, Muhammad 23, 100,000, USA, we are not getting any information out of it, just loosely coupled, oh, they existed. But when I put all these loosely coupled content in an order, like let's say I have created a table of employee, and then if I say, hey, name, age, salary, location, if I give some kind of content like this, if I formulate a table and if I place Muhammad under the name, age 23, 23 is under age, and location is under USA, and salary is 100,000. So I get some kind of information. When I am trying to place these loosely coupled content in an order, in a tabular format, I get an information out of it. Oh, Muhammad is an employee of so and so. It's like the organization, and his age is 23, and he draws 100,000, and his place is USA. Means I am getting some kind of information. So in this way, my friends, this is how we use it to perceive the data all these days. So whenever the automation of manual process was done, all these particular data set has been formulated in a tabular format. Like independently, customer record exists, subscription ID is an data, a telephone number independently it exists, it's a data. So when you put all these loosely coupled contents in a tabular format, it became information. You are getting some kind of concrete information about a certain program, or if you see any retail ticket, oh, you get an air ticket, you get complete information. And if you loosely, independently, each and every data set, each and every content has got its own information, its own variable. So let's say name, you have an air ticket name, yes, you have it, and some ticket number, yes, it is used for reference sake, and you have a boarding pass, and in that boarding pass you will see that the flight number, terminal number, as well as the seat number. So independently this exists. Oh, seat number belongs to something, flight number belongs to something, terminal, oh, it refers to some kind of, independently it exists, but concrete, when you put it, it became some information. So that's how the data was perceived. So the most often the kind of data what we use to work is structured data, my friends. We always say structured data. Right from the beginning, DBMS to RDBMS and IBM machines also use it to perceive the data in a structured fashion itself. Means whenever you want to store anything, yes, I am going to store it, but it is in the tabular format. So, and we use it to build a lot of front-end applications to access the data set that is being stored in the databases, and you use it to access the data. So when you Write some employee ID, hey, get details of employee ID 1, I get all the information about the employee. Means background, you are writing some query. The query is being built and the query is extracting the data from DBMS, RDBMS, structured data. So this is how we used to perceive the data all these days. But my friends, the data is being changing. The data is being changing a lot after the advent of social networking sites and e-commerce businesses came into picture. Now, I know most of us might have accounts in Facebook or Twitter or some of the other things. So the data is changing so dramatically that if you see the Facebook, my friends, in a single dashboard, what kind of data that you are seeing? You are able to see an audio file, you are able to view a video file, and also you are able to chat, you can able to vote likes and dislikes. Also you can email certain things to a certain group, what not. You are in a single dashboard, in a Facebook, you are able to see multi types of data. When I say multi types of data, it is not just confined to one type of data. When I say one type of data, pictures, all the images is a type of data, but within the pictures, how you represent the data. A particular image can be represented as a JPEG, you can store it as a GIF, you can store it as a BMP. Different formats of the data will be there, and also different types of data is also going to be stored in a Facebook. In a single dashboard, you are able to see this many data. Means the data sets are widely used and you are going to store it. Similarly, SMS. So in like 15 years back, I used it to, means when I have seen first pages. After pages, we got mobiles. And even in mobiles, now we are able to video call and video chatting is there. So the kind of, as and when you are maturing enough in the technology's perspective, you are able to see the different data sets. You are able to see the quantum of the data is increasing and also the variety of the data is also utilized. Twitter, your social networking sites, LinkedIn, social networking sites, give lot of information and stores huge amount of data set. And not to mention your YouTube, day in and day out you will be watching a lot of varieties of videos and audio files. You can upload high definition videos and high definition audios you are going to download and watch online, whatnot. Just imagine the quantum of the data that it is storing. The YouTube is trying to store it in its servers and you are accessing it. And coming to the radio frequency identifiers, RFID. So most of the people I know who are in US, you might be whenever you are traveling over in the interstate, you are charged with toll amount, right? Toll plazas. So when you actually in some cars you might have seen Easy Pass. So when a particular Easy Pass's mounted car goes, he just slows down. He won't stop, but rather he slows down and passes the Easy Pass gate. So the Easy Pass is scanned, the equipment is scanned and appropriate toll amount is charged on your credit card, and later you are getting the message. What is this? How exactly this kind of information is being passed? Just when you pass a toll plaza, your system is scanning that information of Easy Pass equipment and appropriate toll amount is calculated and charged on your system. RFID, radio frequency identifiers. And moreover, most of the corporates these days, or even in a small organizations also, they are incorporating the swiping. So whenever you want to go into an office, you have to swipe your ID card at the door, at the entrance. Means it is actually recording your presence, your attendance is being recorded, and your movement, because every organization wants to know the resources movement within the system. So within the premises, or when you are coming in and when you are going out, everything I want to track. So RFID, radio frequency identifier, means whenever you actually your ID cards will have a magnetic strip imbibed in the card. So when you swipe the ID card, the information is being taken, and the time of that particular swipe is being recorded, and that information is passed to the servers, and it is stored in the user readable format. So your in time and out time is being recorded. So you know whenever you want some kind of information about the movement of the resources, they will be able to track when you are coming and when you are going, kind of stuff. So because, and moreover, when in huge supermarkets or in very big organizations, whenever they want to, they are purchasing goods inside. So a person will manually scan the barcode items that are being labeled on the system, on the goods. So they just scan it, and they will place that scanned product in some location. So when they actually place that one, it is means they want, every organization wants to track whatever the tangible assets they have and intangible assets they have, and where they are placed and how they are going to be accessed. That information they want. So how to automate that information with this RFID? Means the radio frequency identifiers are also generating a lot of data, and it makes the organization's tracking of their asset management system is going to be very simple and easy for them. And coming to next blog. So these days we are seeing a lot of blogs which gives a enormous amount of data set, and you are able to view the data and you are able to work with it. So these blogs are going to be stored, and blogs are heavily used. It gives certain information about so certain products or tools. So they give this one, and this is one of the, in the telecom domain, you see towers, so they emit the signals, and these signals are being tracked by the transmission systems, and then your cell phone will get the signals kind of stuff, so that you are identified from this. So means there's a lot of data transmission is happening, and there is a lot of data that is being consumed, and there is a lot of data that is being produced by some servers, and you are consuming it. Let's take our simple example. The data, whatever we have joined in a virtual meeting room. Now, GoToMeeting server, we are identified on ID, and let's say from my side, I am producing some data. Like I am sharing my laptop screen, you are able to see it, and I am speaking something, you are able to get it, and Divya is actually storing the data. Means data transmission is happening from one end, storing is actually happening in Divya's machine, and rest of the contents are just receiving the data. Means diversifiedly we are getting the data. I am able to show the data. I am producing the data, and when I am speaking, the data is being produced, and when I am sharing, the data is being video and audio data is being produced, and it is recorded in Divya's machine. You are able to see this content. So means just imagine the amount of data that is being produced from my system and transmitted over the internet, and it is transmitted to you people and stored in Divya's machine. It's diversified, but we are just using. That's it, as simple as that. Means the technology, how it is transmitted, how the data is being produced in one system, how the data is being viewed by number of systems, and where it is stored. It is completely encapsulated from us. It is the technology that it is being imbibed and it is using. So that's how the data, what we used to perceive earlier days, is totally changed. What now we are using. The perception of the data is being changing a lot. And this perception of data and utility of the data, generation of the data, has made the organizations to think how this kind of data set can be stored. So mostly these days, my friends, the new data means post implementation of means Facebooks or social networking sites and e-commerce businesses, often the new data, what is being generated is unstructured and semi-structured. So what is semi-structured data, what is unstructured data, and what is structured data? Let's see what is structured data, what is unstructured data, what is semi-structured data. Let us discuss about these things. So structured data, we already know that whenever you have a data, that data is in human readable format. First thing is human readable format. Second thing is, the moment you see the data, you should get the information. Oh yes, Muhammad's salary is 100,000. We are getting the information. Why? Because we placed Muhammad 23 USA 100,000 in a tabular format. The moment I see Muhammad, oh, I want to know the Muhammad salary, 100,000. We got that information. Why? Just it's placed in the tabular format. I know where exactly the salary component is placed. Very clearly get the information out of it. So structured data is a data which is placed in a tabular format and which gives information right away without any time consuming. If you are getting the information right away, that data is called structured data. The popular example for structured data is your RDBMS, Relational Database Management Systems, which all these days we were using. Even today we are using it. So close to 30 years we are using this. It has proved its mettle in the market. We are not going to completely evade the RDBMS concept, my friends. But when we say HDFS and when we say Hadoop or any big data, it is a complementary over the existing RDBMS. Still we require RDBMS. It is not a replacement. Your Hadoop or your the so-called NoSQL databases or whatever the new data structure that you have, it is going to be a complementary over that one, over the existing RDBMS. But it is not completely replacing the RDBMS. So please, you should understand that point. Second, semi-structured data. So semi-structured data is a data which is in a human readable format. First thing is, it is in the human readable format. Second thing is, though it is in human readable format, you are going to spend some time to get information out of it. Now let's say I give a 100 pages book to you. It is in human readable format. It is in a plain English textbook. And the moment if I say, hey, Muhammad, can you give synopsis of this 100 pages book? Will you be able to give information to me immediately? No. He takes time. Why? Because to give synopsis of that particular book, he has to go through all 100 pages and he has to first understand it. And then he comes back to me, hey Raghav, this is what the information is. The author covered this point. The author has explained this point elaborately. He has just touched and left this particular point. So that's how the synopsis will come. He spent some time. So semi-structured data is a data which is in the human readable format, but it takes some time to get the information out of that data set. For example, Word document, it is there in the human readable format. Blogs, your micro level blogs, they are in the human readable format. Your site, your blog has got a lot of text information. If you want some information, you have to go through the entire blog information, and then finally comes, oh, this is what the information is about. And your XMLs. So these days, the data transmission is going to happen in a cheaper and lighter way. XMLs. So XMLs are also in the human readable format, my friends. But the data is being precised in some tags. So to identify what the value belongs to a particular nodes, you all know the structure of XML, right? So in XML, you have the data in a human readable format, but the mapping, unless you know the mapping, you don't get the information out of it. XMLs are a semi-structured data. And your JSON is one of the representation of the data. So whenever you transmit the data from over the internet, you might be transmitting the data in an XML, or you might transmit the data even still lightweight through an REST APIs or a JSON object we say. Means the data is encapsulated in a JSON object, and this JSON object is transmitted over the network, and the receiver's system will read the JSON and deserializes it to the human readable format in the end system. So JSON is one of the basically these JSON and the XMLs are predominantly used in REST APIs. So whenever I am producer, so through REST API, since already the service is provided with some API, I am going to use this particular data set and utilize in my organization. So that's how. So XMLs, Word document, and your JSON are treated as a semi-structured data. The data is in human readable format. You just spend some time to get information out of it. So these days we are getting a lot of semi-structured data too. And then what is unstructured data? The unstructured data, by definition, it is not in the human readable format. Ideally, this unstructured data is not in human readable format. They require some special softwares to read it, or to read it, or to listen. So the unstructured data examples are audio files, video files, and images. Images, audios, and videos, these three types of files are treated as an unstructured data. So these days, if you go through the social networking sites, most of the social networking sites has unstructured data incorporated in the dashboard. If you go to a popular e-commerce website like Amazon or shopping online, whatever, Amazon, eBay, if you name something, Flipkart and all these things, they have semi-unstructured data. Means they process a lot of unstructured data. They generate unstructured data. They require some kind of players to view the video. They require some image players to see the picture. So often this unstructured data requires a specialized software. They are not in the human readable format, and if you use the specialized software, then you will be getting it. A simple example. Let me give you some demonstration on that too. So I am going to take one picture. Some picture let me take. So this some picture, let me say. Okay. So I will take this picture and I try to open with Notepad. This is a picture. When I try to open it in the Notepad, it is taking some time. So when I try to open a particular picture in the photo viewer, you should be able to see a beautiful picture. But when the same picture, when I try to open in a non-format, in a Notepad, I am getting some data. I am viewing the data, but are we getting some kind of information out of it? No, you are not getting, right? This particular data is, we say,
data.
yeah, when you see this particular data, directly you say, oh, it is an junk data. My friends, when you are coming into a big data area, nothing is junk. Nothing is junk. This data has got definitely some value, but you are not able to understand it. Special characters, these data are called non-printable characters. This data has got special value. These are the non-printable characters. So now when I say the same data, if I open with photo viewer, I am able to see a beautiful picture, right? So I got some kind of beautiful picture here, but the same picture, if I am opening in a Notepad, I am saying it's a junk, but when I am trying to open in a photo viewer, I am able to see that picture, beautiful picture, I am able to see that. So please, from when you are in the big data area, nothing is junk. You should use, hey, some special characters are there, some non-human readable characters are there in the data set. Got it? So most of the people say, hey, it's a junk. No, it's nothing is junk. When some system has generated some kind of values, nothing is junk. It has got, but you are not able to read it. It doesn't mean that if you are not able to read it, it is not a junk. It has got some value. You need to find a way through which you can identify that. So please don't use junk data in the big data area, because we value data as a wealth. So when you say wealth, wealth is not a junk, right? So that's how the unstructured data is a data which requires a specialized software, and by nature it is not in a human readable format, and we require the data. Okay, so often the new data, the social networking sites and e-commerce businesses, they are using unstructured data. And as per the Gartner, a research institute, they analyzed the new data format or new data challenges that organizations are facing as characters. 3 characters: high in volume, high velocity, high variety, and high in complexity. When I say volume, velocity, and variety, it's very simple for us. The amount of data that is being generated in various organizations is huge. Volume corresponds to lot of data sets. Velocity is nothing but it is the rate at which the data is generated. You got my point? The rate at which the data is being generated in the servers is the velocity of the data. Like last year, 2015, the rate of generation of data in Facebook is 1 petabytes per day. 1 petabyte is not a small figure. 1 GB itself is a very big data for us. 1024 GB makes 1 TB. 1024 TB makes 1 PB. petabytes. So 1 petabytes of data is being generated per day in the system. That is the velocity of the data of Facebook. Now 1 petabytes of data, if it is generated per day, by the end of 30 days, 30 petabytes. By the end of 1 year, 360 plus 360 petabytes plus it will be there. So that is the amount of volume of data the company is generating. So just imagine how much storage it is being used, how much network transmissions it is being used. So volume and velocity are the key stakeholders of the big data. And variety. The another daunting task is variety of the data. Variety is nothing but I am not talking about the format of data. Of course, format also comes into variety, but I am talking about type of data. Audio, video, images, XML, JSON, and also your structured data, RDBMS data set. And within the RDBMS data, you have different RDBMSs. They have their own storage format. All these belongs to variety of data. On the data structure, variety means structured, semi-structured and unstructured data. Yes, these are the varieties of the data. But when you drill down the further things, oh, images, I have BMP, I have GIF, I have, means a different representation, different formats of the type of data. If I go to the audio, I have different types. If I go to the video, I have got different types. In the same way, if I come to the human readable format, the document, I have got a PDF, I have got a doc, it can be represented as a flat file or it can be represented as a .txt. So different formats are there. So this gives a variety of the data. Mean the new data, whatever that the organizations are facing or using, it has volume, high in velocity, high in variety. Volume, velocity and variety are high. Naturally, when you are dealing with this huge amount of different types of data sets, naturally the complexity involved in analyzing the data is also very high. Complexity is also very high. Got it? Now, so as per the Gartner's, the new data has got 3 V's: volume, variety and velocity, and complexity involved in analyzing the data is also very high. Now, the data challenges, because we all know close to from 2000 onwards the e-commerce business has kick-started and it is booming like anything. Every day you are getting new kind of businesses and new kind of entrepreneurs are going into the e-commerce line. So this growing of e-commerce businesses and social networking sites naturally gave challenges to the IT sector. Hey, I am doing the business in this way. How I am going to store the data? How I am going to transmit the data? And how I am going to represent the data? And finally, what kind of security level that you are giving to my data that is being generated? So these are the 4 different aspects that is being given for data challenges. The industry got data challenges from social networking sites, e-commerce businesses and various other online shopping and kind of stuff. So the data challenges has been tackled by in 2 aspects. The data challenges has been tackled in 2 aspects. One is process perspective and the second one is technology perspective. Yes, technology perspective is, of course, technology perspective takes the first step, because because existing storage content are not able to store the semi-structured and unstructured data, and because of the volume and variety and velocity of the data, the existing hardware, whatever we used to have during 2000s or early 90s, was not sustained. So grid computing came into picture, and cloud computing came into picture. These days, cloud computing is so it's a buzzword these days we are using. Cloud computing and virtualization of the data, and innovations in business intelligence tools to represent the unstructured and semi-structured data. A lot of aspects. So, what is grid computing? Grid computing is a process. It is a data centers. Have you ever heard about data centers? Data centers.
Yes, I've gone to a data center.
Yes. So they make they use highly configured servers, and these highly configured servers are networked over the they are going to place in a network, and these highly configured servers are predominantly used to store the data, and they are accessed in a separate room. In fact, a separate infrastructure is going to be maintained to them, and external systems will access through internet or through network channels or through intra-network or interconnectivity. They will access the data from that part. So grid computing is very expensive in setting it up. Infrastructure cost for this grid computing is very high. Of course, so before the advent of Hadoop, someone has to take a leap over it, and they have to store the content. How they want to store it? They came up with grid computing. Data centers are the one of the examples of this grid computing, where it solved the purpose of storage of the data. Of course, cost-wise it is very, very huge. Cloud computing. Cloud computing is, of course, these days cloud computing is a buzzword. Most of the people want, instead of going to grid computing, setting it up, setting a data center of its own in the area. So they are going to subscribe to the person who have already set it up. Like Amazon, AWS, it's a cloud computing. ControlS, it's an organization which has already set up a data center, and where you can store your data and access the data from the means. With the help of cloud computing, infrastructure cost is reduced for the organizations, and you can pay some subscription to the third-party vendor. He loads the data, he stores the data for you, and he charges you with the for the subscription and the amount of data that you are going to store. From organization perspective, it is going to benefit with the infrastructure cost, and from the vendor perspective, he already set it up. Since he don't have data, he is subscribing. He is getting some kind of, he is able to generate revenue out of it. So that's how cloud computing targeted mainly to answer the velocity and volume of the data. Coming to the third point, this one, open source software. So because most of the IT sector, when you take IT sector, huge amount of cost is being incurred on software, development of a software, because the manpower is less here, and moreover the billing for the hourly billing for developing and testing and implementing and deploying a particular software product is huge. So that mounts up the cost of automation. So to overall reduce the cost of the software development life cycle, so these days most of the organizations are banking on open source software. For example, Linux, Red Hat Linux, it was open source. So rather than reinventing the wheel from the scratch, already it has been given, why don't I use this product and customize this product as per my need? So it will save my time and it will save the overall cost. So in that way, open source softwares came into picture and helped most of the organizations to reduce their overall cost. And virtualization, of course, virtualization is a part and parcel of cloud computing. So which are predominantly used to reduce the time of deployment and also increase the processing capacity of the cloud computing. So virtualization means, so when you are sitting here, the data is being stored in, means you have signed a subscription with some vendor. So you absolutely don't bother where physically this particular server is there or where physically your data is stored. You are not bothered about it. You only bothered whether my data is secure, whether my data is being accessed only to me, and if it is accessed, what is the network, means what is the rate at which the data I am getting, is it serving my purpose? That's it. So virtualization is a part and parcel of cloud computing. And dataware appliances, this particular part was predominantly used to address the volume from the structured data. Even the structured data is also increasing, my friends, because the amount of data that we are going to store in our RDBMS is also increasing. To ensure the data is being stored and not corrupted, dataware appliances means a lot of hardware related to that particular data houses and the distributed data processing in the RDBMS concept has come into picture, and the hardware content, whatever you are placing, is dataware appliances. So it addresses your volume of the data. And these are the different aspects that are there from the technical perspective. Of course, there is a increase in the process perspective too. So from process perspective, earlier we used to follow waterfall model in software development, but it is a flaw. There was a flaw in this because we used to spend a lot of amount and the final product was altogether different. So waterfall model is predominantly used and well suited for manufacturing industries, but whereas in IT, waterfall model is not used. So since the requirements were frequently changed and iteratively you have to drill down to the requirement and then generate it out of the processed, means a refined unit of process, we have iterative model. Iterative model we got. This is one of the things. So even iterative model has got its own flaws. So now these days in most of the software industry we are following Scrum Agile model. So Agile is a process perspective which is used to develop a software product, and it's a process oriented. How you are ensuring the accountability, responsibility, and deliverability, and it closely monitors what is the cost that is being implemented. Are we traveling in the right direction or not? In the pieces and bits and pieces we breaks the big unit task in a small task and ensure that each and every task is developed in a right model. So that's how the process perspective has been changed. So where the accountability, responsibility, and the direction of implementation and time of deployment, cost, complexity in the problem solving situation has been reduced. So process perspective, these are the various contents that is being taken. So being so said, what is big data? What is big data? All the transactions, interactions, and observations put together it is a big data. So we stop our session here for today, and we continue understanding big data and use cases of the big data and rest of the contents of the big data unit tomorrow. Okay friends, so Divya, you can stop recording now.